Hello, I'm Dave.
And I'm Rob.
And welcome to The Listmakers, a spin-off from The Doctor Who Show for episode 49. A slightly wacky one here, Rob.
Yes, it is, Dave.
It is a slightly wacky one here. We are going to make some lists, and it's slightly wacky because some time ago, listener Adrian Storick from Australia, thank you for submitting this, Adrian, submitted into the Hat of Rassilon top 5 most attractive guest characters. And you and I thought, we're not sure we're happy to sit here and just ogle people for 20 minutes. So let's take the spirit of what Adrian said and have some fun by talking about top 5 guest characters we'd like to go on a date with, because hopefully we can then go a little bit beyond the surface about these characters and talk about why that might be fun. Rob, are you ready for this one?
I've made my list, Dave. I'm ready as I'll ever be, I guess.
Excellent. Now, Rob, last time we had something very unusual, which was no snaps whatsoever.
Yep.
I'm pretty confident that's happening again.
You think that might happen, Dave?
I think that might happen this time.
Okay.
We will find out now. Listeners, we're not quite sure how this is going to go, but in the spirit of what Adrian said, we're diving in. Wish us luck.
Godspeed.
Godspeed. At number 5, I would like to go on a date with Adam Colby from Image of the Fendal.
Oh, yeah.
This is a gentleman who is good to look at. He's a nice-looking young man. That's important, I think, on a date. But he's a very intelligent chap. He's an educated scientist. He's involved in various different sorts of paleontology, which I think is a fascinating field. There'll be a lot to talk to him about on a date. He's obviously from England in the countryside. That's a lovely place. Lots of nice manor houses and little country places you could go on a date. But I think something else that also sets Adam up and puts him on my list is that he is written by Chris Boucher, which means that he's full of wonderful, witty Chris Boucher dialogue. And the idea of going on a date with a good-looking, intelligent scientist who's just full of witty and often acerbic Chris Boucher dialogue, I think would be very fun. And I suspect we might actually get on very, very well, or irritate each other very, very much. I'm not sure which it'll be, but let's have a date and find out.
Short of going on a date with Chris Boucher.
Well, he's not a character, so it didn't
I know.
qualify. Oh, sad. Very sad. Number 4, I've decided to go on a date with Seth from the Horns of Nimon. And I thought here's a guy who's about to become the Prince of Aneth, which is, of course, a space equivalent of ancient Athens. And I thought, yeah. I wouldn't mind dating the Prince of Ancient Athens, except in a space environment. Why would that not be fun? I get the feeling after a trip home on his spaceship with Tika, he's probably going to be looking for somebody to go on a date with. He's going to be looking for somebody as an alternate there. And I thought, we could just have some fun. He's space age. He's played by Simon Gibbs Kent, who by this stage is well into his 20s and, a man. And I just think, hey, that could be fun.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to go out with a sci-fi prince?
Exactly.
Number 3, I have decided to nominate going on a date with Frank from Daleks in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Now, look, this one came to my mind very quickly because, let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen, he's played by Andrew Garfield. So, there was a shallow and superficial reason for going there. And were we doing Adrian's original version of just, people we think are hot, yeah, sure, Frank would have been on my list. But he stayed on the list and stayed at number 3 for more than that, because I thought about this. This is a guy from Tennessee, so out there, regional sort of middle America, which I love. So I love the idea of going back to Tennessee to see Frank's family and spending summers there and all the rest. I thought that would be great. And he lives in New York. And New York, yes, at its low point in the 1930s, but if things work out and we go on many, many dates and maybe have a relationship, we're moving into New York in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. I'll be there. Okay, I'd be a probably middle-aged guy by this point, but I'll be there as Dylan emerges in the 1960s and all of that sort of vibe. I'd be there for the politics of the US. I'll just be there at New York as it reaches its peak. New York as it's really growing into the city that never sleeps, with a great young guy that the Doctor thinks is a really cool guy. He's a really good hero. He's kind of the hero of the story. He's a nice person. He's everything that I'll be looking for in a date. So Frank from Daleks in Manhattan.
Get in on that property ladder.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well put, Rob. Number 2, I've gone for somebody who is very well spoken. He's got a background in the military, which I have as well. He is known to be into foreign cultures, which I think is really interesting, would make him interesting to talk to. He's somebody very interested in politics, in changing the world and seeking a better world, which I am as well. And this is, of course, Mike Yates.
Yeah.
And I just thought, this is just obvious. As I thought about it more and more, I've gone, we could talk about his time in the army. That would be awesome. We could talk about what he wants to see in the world and the change he wants to be. Maybe I could be the guy that keeps him out of Operation Golden Age and just gives him another reason to sort of go in and do things differently. He's a genuinely warm guy. He's a compassionate guy. You know, there's the line that Choji has about his compassion is what it is that saves him from the spiders. I think, you know, he's a good guy. He's a good person. Look, would it work out as well as maybe some of the others? I don't know, but I'm willing to have a crack. So a date with Mike Yates if I can drag him away from the town with Joe Grant.
Nice.
Number one, I don't know if this is really, really obvious or really, really cheesy or a bit of both, but after it came to my mind, I thought, not only is this on my list, it's going to be at number one, and that is Rogue.
Right, okay.
My second pick on one of these lists from a Ncuti Gatwa era story, and I thought, well, not only is this a charismatic, good-looking guy. I mean, hell, it's played by Jonathan Groff. Come on, TV's Jonathan Groff. He's a good-looking guy.
Yeah.
But I thought, what sort of dates would we go on? This guy can travel in time.
Yeah.
This guy can go on a date anywhere we want. Paris in the 1930s. We could go to Australia at the peak of the gold rush. We could go on a date in ancient Rome. You know, we could go, just think of all the dates we could go on. And that's before we go into outer space. But beyond that, again, he's a guy who's motivated by wanting to do good. We know from this story that he's got a big heart, which is really important if you're going on a date with somebody. He's a guy who's got Kylie on his playlist, but doesn't like people being ostentatious and stupid dancing to Kylie, which I think means on both levels he gets on very well with me.
Yeah.
And the final nail on the coffin was I thought, if I could get this guy in Ncuti Gatwa's Dr. Kant, wouldn't that be a feather in my cap? Nice. So he's got to go in at number one. So, Rob, that was a very strange and mixed up list. Hopefully it made sense out there. Listeners, hopefully it made sense to you. Any snaps, Rob?
No. Mysteriously, no.
Strange enough.
Yeah.
All right, look, I've got more to say, but let's hear your list.
All right, Dave. In at number 5, I'm a sucker for all things 1960s. In fact, years ago, when I was pitching a fantasy doctor companion combo, I envisaged Charlotte Ritchie as a 60s style character, and Polly, of course, remains my favourite actual 60s female companion. All of which is to say, there's something about the 60s that draws me in, and Professor Rachel Jensen, in Remembrance of the Daleks, played by Pamela Salem, just nails it.
Can I say, Rob, the moment you said 1960s, I thought, it's going to be Rachel Jensen, isn't it?
Yeah. she's smart, she's highly competent, she's rocking amazing 60s fashion. Plus, let's not forget, she's absolutely stunning. As stunning as she was in The Robots of Death as Toos, no less. So I can imagine Dave taking her to a 1960s movie. Maybe a Bond film, given that she played Miss Moneypenny in Never Say Never Again, so that'd be quite meta if we did that. And then a late night coffee in a cosy cafe. A perfect date with a charming and intelligent woman.
Awesome.
Yeah. In at number 4, some might say I find a way to mention Kinder in every podcast, but honestly, this pick is genuine. Dr. Todd, played by Neris Hughes, like Professor Jensen, is another incredibly smart woman who's easy on the eyes, but what really stands out for me is how effortlessly she slides into the role of Davo's sidekick, making it just feel completely natural from the get-go. She reminds me of those people you meet in real life who you just click with, straight away. We all know there are people you encounter instantly. There's like a force field. You're not sure why, but you know you're not going to be friends. You're just repelled by them. But then there are others that you meet, and it's an immediate, we've known each other for ages. You've been my best friend forever, and it's like the first day you've met them. I can imagine that kind of instantless, effortless connection with Dr. Todd. And a date with her, I think, would have some really great conversation.
Nice.
Yeah, in at number 3, there was a bit of competition for this slot with Felicity Jones as Robina Redmond in The Unicorn and the Wasp, almost stealing the spot. After all, she's also Jyn Erso in Rogue One. How could you not consider Felicity Jones? But if we're just talking characters, Robina Redmond is pretty cold and calculating, so I opted for another thief from the Doctor Who universe, Lady Christina. Of course, it's hard to ignore that Michelle Ryan is absolutely stunning, but Lady Christina has charm and a sense of mischief that really win the slot. Her energy is really playful, she's adventurous. She has proven herself across various Doctor Who media, TV, audio, and comics. And Dave, as a minor aristocrat, I imagine she'd want to go somewhere nice for a date, so I'd have to pick a restaurant that matches her style, and that could be pretty exy. So I've got that in mind as well. In at number 2, going on a date with a psychic, especially an empathic psychic, would be pretty interesting. There's so much potential when someone can feel what you're feeling. So, hello, Emma Grayling, played by Jessica Raine. The Doctor mentions during Hyde that people like Emma are often the loneliest people as they open themselves up to hidden feelings, all that guilt, pain, and sorrow. That's actually a quote. I looked it up. There's something about that vulnerability, I think, that speaks to my knight in shining armour instincts. So I'm imagining a date with Emma where she doesn't have to think about the weight of the world for a while, and she can just have a fun, light-hearted evening and just enjoy herself. And let's be honest, if I'm getting to spend some time with Jessica Raine for a few hours, I'm certainly not complaining. I believe that's what they call a win-win in the classics.
Yes.
And finally, Dave, number 1. What's one of my lists without a cheat or something from left field? So my number 1 pick is Adiola Oshodi. Do you know her, Dave?
No.
It is, of course, Freema Agyeman's character in Army of Ghosts.
Oh, well done.
I'm getting to go on a date with Freema Agyeman, as she was a guest actor on Doctor Who before she was Martha Jones.
Yes, yes.
And I guess I could have used this cheat with others. People are probably shouting Karen Gillan at their speakers, or maybe just shouting it into thin air if they're wearing headphones. That'd be quite a sight. But it's Freema all the way for me. She has such a good attitude in everything she's ever been in. I think she'd be a really good mate to hang out with. She's really practical. She's really fun. And of course, shared with everyone on my list, she is drop dead gorgeous too. So that's my list, Dave. I got a cheat in just at the end.
Fair enough. And yes, no snaps.
No snaps.
Rob, would you like to know about my near miss and my 2 disquals?
Oh, God, I would, because I don't have any.
Oh, okay. So my near miss was King James I.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Because I thought, again, like, I know the way that James would shower just riches and titles and everything you could imagine onto his boyfriends. Mm-hmm. But I also know what happened to them when they got fell out of favour.
Yeah.
And I wasn't quite sure that that's the life I would have liked to have led. So James I was considered, but not on the list. Mm. And then there were 2 that were disqualified.
Oh.
Now, the first was a man who is incredibly good looking and known for millennia for his abilities as a fantastic lover, and that is the character of Achilles from the Mythmakers. Mm-hmm. But I thought, well, A, I'm not really sure the personality's there. B, he's going to be dead by the end of the story. And C, where in ancient Troy are we going to go for this date? So I thought, you know what? We've said we're deliberately going for something a bit deeper than just looks. So Achilles was out.
Yes.
And then another character that, if we were just doing our hottest list, would have been number 1, which is Mike Smith from Remembrance of the Daleks. Mm. And again, he's a good-looking guy. He was in the Air Force. I was in the Air Force. He's diligent. He's got all those things.
I know where this is going.
We could go on lots of cool dates in the 1960s. We could sort of be there as the Beatles were emerging,
yep.
and the Stones are emerging, and everything that's going on. But being a neo-Nazi is a fairly massive red flag, Rob.
Yeah, it is.
A pretty massive red flag.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm not going to go out on a date with a neo-Nazi. So unfortunately, Mike Smith very appropriately did not make the list that Adrian sent in.
Very fair indeed.
Now, Rob, I'm about to issue you a challenge, but first I'll answer the challenge myself because I think that's only fair.
Who would we pick from each other's list?
Who would we pick from each other's list?
Yeah, okay.
Now, look, I think without question for me, it would be Rachel Jensen. Great character, intelligent. Again, got that little bit of sort of almost Boucher-esque acerbic wit about her, which I think would be really good. And look, let's face it, if I was, my current age back in the 1960s, I'd probably be known as, that slightly eccentric eternal bachelor. And that, let's face it, it's not that different to where I am in the 2020s. I can't really judge that. But I could, maybe I'll ask that lovely Professor Jensen out on a night out. I could see that happening.
Nice. Very nice.
What about you, Rob?
I think Andrew Garfield is the pick. And the locations you talked about sold me. Because, yes, when I've travelled to America both oh gosh, as a journalist or on my own coin, just for a holiday. And also when I'd go over to see my wife, because my wife is American, listeners might not know that, and I would see her family in places like North Carolina, and we'd go traveling and we'd go through Kentucky and down to South Carolina, and she's got other family in Idaho and such. There is this rural country vibe to the US that I enjoy very much.
Yeah.
But big cities are fantastic. I've been to New York City. It is wonderful. So yeah, when you started talking locations, I thought, yeah, that's a big selling point, where you could live or visit people. That's huge, yeah.
Yeah, and look, North Carolina is a gorgeous part of America. Absolutely lovely.
It's wonderful. My wife went to UNC Greensboro.
Oh, wow. Okay. I know someone who went there, yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Go Tar Heels.
Yeah, exactly. I almost bought a T-shirt of theirs in the local mall, yeah.
Nice. Rob, this is an unusual exercise for us. What did you make of it all?
It was a very different kind of list to make, and I actually had a bit of fun just coming up with names and thinking of how we would date, what sort of dates we go on. Like Lady Christina, her taste in restaurants might be very expensive, or Jessica Rain's character, that would be interesting because she is an empathic, I almost said psychopath, but no, she's a psychic. And I don't think we could make a list like this every month, but as a one-off, yeah, great.
Yeah, and it's interesting because although modern Doctor Who is perhaps known a bit more for its sort of soapy type vibe, and it's even particularly like, you go to the Tennant Rosier, it's all about the will they, won't they sort of stuff. It's not a show that I think about in terms of I'm watching for the eye candy or I'm watching for the romance or anything like that. It's really not that sort of show. I mean, there's occasional actors that I sort of go, oh yeah, that's a good looking person or whatever, or they're played by someone like that and the like, but I don't sort of sit there looking at Doctor Who as I would with some other television, just with that sort of mindset. And so sort of going in and trying to find these people, I think was much easier with the approach we've taken. Who would be fun to go on a date with? Adam Colby, I think, would be a really fun, interesting date. I think it was much easier than just like who's hot. And I just don't think Doctor Who lends itself to that.
Well, do you think it's because of the age you came across these episodes when you're just young and you don't see these people as sexual or even just attractive or anything? They're just characters in a show that you love. Because there are certainly people who have grown up and watched New Who, and then they go back to the old stuff, and they do start shipping, as they would say, characters. And there are women out there writing fan fiction about Nyssa and Tegan getting it on, and they see that. Whereas I look at Nyssa and Tegan, I wouldn't think of that in a million years. To be honest. Yeah,
I don't know whether it's just my attitude or it's an attitude that it comes from the fact that these people were part of my childhood. It's like you can't find your primary school teachers attractive because they're primary school teachers, like it's just not right, and the Doctor's sort of always been like that. And
high school was a different matter, but anyway, I digress.
Well, we won't go there. Wow, okay, that's a confession. But you're right. Like there are people online that you see now, particularly younger fans who've come to the new show, where they talk about how hot the Doctor is, or wasn't it a shock when Peter Capaldi wasn't hot? I mean, Peter Capaldi's not hot. Come on, but like that he's not conventionally young hot bloke.
No.
And I just thought, well, the Doctor's never hot. I've never been attracted to the Doctor. It's the Doctor. That's wrong.
Yeah.
And so I like my Doctor Who fairly asexual, and indeed most of the picks that both of us have had have been about the date, not anything else. So hopefully listeners took that in the spirit it was meant.
Yeah, write in and let us know what you thought.
Yes, and Adrian, let us know if we did justice to your intention there.
Yeah.
But look, great that listeners send us in challenges. We're always happy to try and meet them.
Mm-hmm.
But Rob.
Yes.
For next time.
It's
episode 50 of The List Makers.
Yeah, wow.
So.
Wow.
I'll just cover I'll just move the head of Rassilon over here so it doesn't hear us.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just agree it's time to do top 5 Doctors.
Wow. People have wanted this for a long time. People have mentioned it to us on social.
They have. It's a big one. You can only do it once. But we've done 49 of these, Rob. 50 next time. How about it?
I think we've earned it.
We'll break the head of Rassilon. Next time, ladies and gentlemen, top 5 Doctors.
I'll be there, Dave. I'll be there.
So will I. But until then, I've been Dave.
And I've been Rob.
And we'll make those lists next month.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.